Today on Brent and Shannon's Excellent Adventures, we are talking, as promised, about our process in getting temporary Mexican residency. For those of you that don't know who we are, or you're tuning in for the first time, we are Brent and Shannon from Vancouver Island. There's Brent.
I'm Brent.
He's Brent. And this is our travel vlog. So thanks so much for tuning in. And let's get right to it. So in order to start the process in obtaining your temporary Mexican residency, it needs to start outside of Mexico. Now, the interesting thing that we found out was that we were going to start the process in Vancouver when we were still in Canada before we came to Arizona, where we are now. And I couldn't get an appointment. They're pretty booked up. It seems that there's a lot of people moving to Mexico these days. So in that, I discovered that it doesn't have to be the country of your nationality. It just needs to be any country outside of Mexico to start the process. So since where we stay in the US is only 2 hours from Las Vegas, we decided to choose the Las Vegas consulate for our application. That being said, you need to make sure that you have the temporary residency rules for whatever consulate you are applying to, because they are all different. So there's some requirements that are required at the Las Vegas consulate were not required in Vancouver, and vice versa. So you need to make sure that you do have the list of rules from the consulate that you are applying. The other thing that you need to make sure of is if you're applying on economic solvency, which we did. There's a few other ways you can apply, family and investment, but we applied on having a specific monthly income and being able to prove that to the consulate. If you are applying in Las Vegas or in the US, you need to make sure that you can qualify in US dollars. So if it looks good in Canada, once you do the exchange, it might not look as good, especially right now with what the dollar's doing. So make sure that you cover those things, get that all checked out beforehand. Now, I just want to state that we are talking about our experience. It's going to be a little bit different for everybody, depending on how you get your income, if you work for a regular job, if you're self-employed, if your income is coming from a pension, if it's coming from investments. So make sure that you look at the info for your particular source of income. So what happened with us is that we brought our 12 months worth of personal bank statements down, which showed more than enough income to qualify, whether that was in Canada or in the US. Now, what happened though, what we discovered is because we are self-employed and we are paid from our own corporation, we needed a whole lot more info. Also, a lot of our income does come from stock investments and also comes from rental investments. So we were just about there, but they really needed to verify, even though that wasn't stated in the beginning. Until they could see our paperwork and see how our income was, they didn't know that they were going to require that from us. So we had to go back for a second appointment after coming home and digging up all kinds of paperwork. By the time we got there for our second appointment, we had a Vancouver phone book worth of paper. So what we needed to do, because we are self-employed and we are paid from our own corporation into our personal account, we needed all incorporation documents for our company. We needed our articles of incorporation and all of that. So make sure that you have that. If you're self-employed, provide all your company documents. The other thing that we had to provide was the rental income. So we had to provide all the rental agreements for all of our rental properties from our tenants and support that source of income as well. Then from there, had to prove the business income. So had to bring business bank statements and sales reports and all of that kind of stuff. So we really did, just because we're not paid on a regular payroll, did have to bring in a lot of supporting documents. So my advice to you is to bring more rather than less. Bring as much, even if you think you're not going to need it. You need to just load up the paperwork before you go into your appointment to make sure you have everything that you need. Okay, so they didn't end up needing it all. We got our residency based on economic solvency, and that was a wonderful thing. Now here's the tricky part. When you fly into the US from Canada or any other country, on your travel record is going to be recorded what they call an I-94. The airlines take care of that. It's all done when you fly. If you cross at a land border, it's not always done. It's not a given that you are going to have an I-94 recorded on your travel record. This was all news to us, and basically everybody that's crossing at a land border to come into the US, unless you specifically request it at a land border, you don't have it. So most people are illegal aliens in the US if you're coming in from Canada. So what you want to do when you are crossing at a land border, make sure that you get the stamp on your passport or specifically request the I-94. What happened with us is that we left the US in December of 2021. And so when we left there was no record of us coming back to Canada. Our last record showed that we entered the US in September of 2021, and therefore we were over our stay and hadn't left the US is what it looked like on paper. So we were illegal in the US. Again, when we crossed the border of October 2022 to come into the US this year, it was not recorded. So it still looked like our last crossing, which we had flown, was in September of 2021. So I just need to reiterate, if you are crossing by land, get a passport stamp or request an I-94 to be added to your record or even printed off for you right there. You will need it if you are a Canadian applying in the US for temporary residency, and it is very important. You won't get it without it. So what we ended up having to do to fix this problem, they said, okay, well, we can't see it on your record. You're going to have to go to the nearest port of entry. For us, that was the Las Vegas airport. So that's all fine and dandy. We got out to the airport. We found global entry with a little bit of difficulty because nobody really knew where to point us. So we got there. They said, we don't accept any appointments. You can't just walk in. You need to have a prior appointment. A really nice fella there said that he would talk to us and did declare that yes, we were in the US illegally because we did not have the I-94. So he said, we can probably get this fixed up for you, but worst case scenario, we'll just shoot you on a plane back to Canada and you can re-enter. That's definitely not an option. So we needed to get this problem fixed. So he called up somebody else. A really nice fella came and talked to us there. He said, yeah, give me 3 or 4 days. I'll have this all fixed up for you. We said, we don't have 3 or 4 days. We have 3 or 4 hours because we need to get back to the consulate before they close. So super, super nice fella that helped us up with the documents. He said, go and have some lunch and I'll have this taken care of for you. So in less than an hour, he had our I-94. We logged onto the system. We could see that it was there. We rushed back to the consulate and we paid our $96. We got our rubber stamp and they applied the temporary visa into our passport. And so there you have it. Now that is step 1 of getting your temporary residency visa. That is our story and what happened. It might be different for you, but I'm certainly able to answer any questions that you might have when it comes to getting your temporary resident visa in Mexico. Now we will be doing a future video. Once we cross the border, we have 30 days to hit the consulate on the other side and finish off this process. So in the future, stay tuned. We will be doing part 2 of obtaining your Mexican residency visa temporarily. And just a quick side note there, a temporary visa allows you to stay in the country for 4 years. Okay, so we'll do another video down the road about the differences in the different types of residency. But for now, that's our story. And please do us a huge favor and subscribe to our channel as we are embarking on our Mexican adventure for 3 months, traveling through the country. It would mean a lot to us if you subscribe, if you like our video, and even if you want to leave a comment. Thanks all. Talk to you soon.